You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more to life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more to life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, like some bottles, impress them girls. It's more to life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And this is the UFC 277 results show. And I just got to start off with self-applause here because this is also, I could say this is a redemption show as well, because one of my first videos was a UFC prediction show. And I did awful on that show. I almost picked every single fight wrong. I think I only got one of the fights wrong on the UFC 276 show right. I think I got maybe the one of the fights right. That was between Israel Adonijay and who was he fighting? I think he was fighting let's see, can't remember who he was fighting. Okay. Let me go back here. It was Israel Adonijay. He reclaimed the title. Yeah, he was fighting Jared Cannonier. That was the only fight that I got right on the main card. But yeah, I got 100%. Every single fight right here on the main card. So I got to give myself a personal pat on the back because I got some redemption here. So let's start off and let's get to it. So can I get a menu, and let's get right into it with the first fight on the main card. So starting off with the first fight on the main card, we had a light heavyweight bout between Magomed Ankalaev and Anthony Smith. And what I stated with this is I kind of said that Magomed Ankalaev was kind of an up-and-comer, and he was like kind of the young up-and-comer. He was on an 8-fight winning streak. He'd only lost one fight by triangle choke in the waning seconds to Paul Craig, and he had like a mixed bag of unanimous decisions and all knockouts. Besides that, he was on a hot streak. And then we had Anthony Smith, who I thought was kind of just like a gatekeeper, stepping stone. You know, this was kind of maybe kind of a title eliminator for your Magomed Ankalaev. You know, if he beats him, he may have a shot for the title against Yuri Prochazka, and that's exactly what ended up happening. You know, and the first round, it was pretty much pretty kind of even, I guess. But for the most part, it was Magomed Ankalaev pretty much dominated. I think it mostly went to Magomed Ankalaev winning the striking and winning the little bit of grappling that there was. And then towards the very end of the fight, Anthony Smith, or actually Magomed Ankalaev, checked a leg kick that I guess I don't know if it broke Anthony Smith's ankle or his lower leg, but then at the end of the round, Anthony Smith was like limping over to his corner, and I think he said that he broke his ankle or he broke his leg. And then coming out early in the round, he shot in and kind of clinched up with Ankalov, and then kind of dropped down and just kind of like pulled guard, and then just Ankalov just smashed on him and got the TKO win. And that's kind of what I said. I said it would either go to decision or Magomed Ankalov would get the TKO or knockout, and that's exactly what happened. And so I was one for one and oh right out of the gate to start the main card. And then for the second fight, we had a flyweight bout between Sergey or Alexander Pantoja and Alex Perez. And what I said about these two guys is that they had, in like their last 4 fights or so, that they had a very similar record. And the only difference between them is I said that Alexander Pantoja had more of a decorated submission game, and Alex Perez had a long history of getting submitted. I think he'd been submitted around 10 times maybe in his career. He'd been submitted several times in his career. Yeah, he had been submitted not that many times, but 4 times in his career, and I don't think Pantoja had ever been submitted. Yeah, he had never been submitted, but he had submitted people like 9 or 10 times in his career, so he was much more decorated in his submission game. And early in the round, early in the fight, they were just kind of back and forth, pretty even. Like right out of the gate, they were flurry, just fist fight flurry right in the middle of the octagon. And then Alexander Pantoja just jumps on his back. And what I said was going to happen is, in Alexander Pantoja's last fight, he had gotten a rear naked choke. So I had stated that I thought that Alexander Pantoja was maybe going to get like a rear naked choke, maybe late in the second round, but he got right to it early in this fight and got a neck crank, which is very similar to a rear naked choke. But he got that early in the first round at 1:31 into the first round. So mark it up, 2-0 on the main card. And then on to the third fight of the main card, we had the heavyweight bout between Sergey Pavalovic and Derek Lewis. And with this one, there was some controversy with this one, but you know, when you're picking fights and if you're betting, you don't really complain too much with how a fight goes. But it's interesting when if you do make bets on any of these DraftKings or FanDuels or anything. Sometimes when there's really bad calls with the refs and things like that, and you have money on the line, sometimes they'll give you your money back. And maybe with a blown call by a referee like there was in this fight, maybe some people got their money back. But I'll get into this fight and maybe explain it to you. But what I stated was going to happen is, because Derek Lewis, in his 3 of his last fights, and over the last year or so, he had gotten knocked out by Cyril Gane and Tua Tayabasu, which are like elite heavyweights. Cyril Gane had fought Francis Ngannou, and Tua Taibasi is probably going to fight for the belt pretty soon. And I just said that's a pretty, within just a year being knocked out twice like that is kind of a tough thing. Maybe his chin is compromised, and I just feel like being knocked out in that short amount of time, that can be really a strain on your body, especially a guy that's up in his age, 37 years old. That's old for any professional athlete, uh, and that's exactly what happened. With just 55 seconds into the first round, he got clipped, and then he just got kind of knocked off balance, and uh, Sergey Pavalovic started just swinging wildly, and didn't really seem like, and once slow motion was played back, it didn't seem like a lot of those punches actually landed, and then he kind of fell down, kind of face down, and before Sergey Pavlovich could land any of the kill shots, I think Dan Mergliaga kind of stepped in before any of them could land, and kind of saved him. And before you know it, he's standing up. Derek Lewis is standing up, protesting the stop, and it was just kind of a bad look for the ref there. And so a lot of fans on social media are complaining, saying it was a bad stop, and I don't know. So that's kind of my explanation as to why maybe some of those betting websites may be giving some disgruntled fans their money back. But once again, like I said, when you're making these picks and maybe even your bets, you'll take a win any way you can. So that's a 3-0 for my on my prediction show. And so on to the fourth fight, and this is the co-main event, and this is Brandon Moreno versus Kayak France. And I basically just went into this as these guys had fought before, and it was a unanimous decision win by Brandon Moreno. And in the first fight, we had heard that talked about how Brandon Moreno had been knocked down in the first round, and then after that he got back up and pretty much dominated the fight afterwards. And I've just gone into the fact that Brandon Moreno has been in 3 wars in a row with Davison Figueiredo, and he just has fought in 5-round fights over the last 3 years or so. Like, he just has that champion grit, from fighting Davison Figueiredo over the last 3 fights, and he's just got that marinade and seasoning. I just really picked him because of that, and I think that shined through in this fight, because in the first 2 rounds he pretty much controlled the fight against Kayak France, but then in the 3rd round, like, it seemed like early in the 3rd round, he got cut open, got a cut, and that started bleeding quite a bit, and it looked like Kayak France started taking over a little bit after that cut opened up. But then just kind of out of nowhere, Brandon Moreno lands this perfectly placed body kick that he led with the tip of his toe that dug right into the liver, and that just dropped Kayak France like a bag of bricks, and a ton of bricks, and he just jumped all over him and just started laying down some punches. And before you know it, the ref was jumping in. I think it was Herb Deem, and that was it. It was over, and he just showed that championship resilience, that even with a bad cut and looking like the tide was turning, that he was not gonna back down, let a little bit of adversary stop him, and yeah, that was impressive, a very impressive win for Brandon Moreno to get the interim title and set up. Like it looks very well like a fourth title uh, bout between Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno, and that was a very interesting scene after that fight is where Brandon Moreno was looking for Davison Figueiredo after the fight, calling out his name, wondering where he was in the crowd. And social media is always wild when things like that happen. And like I stated in the previous video, and I ask all the people that watch this video to go back and watch the prediction show, the UFC 277 prediction show before this to watch, because I said that I'm more of a Davison Figueiredo fan, which I think is pretty rare. I think most people are Brandon Moreno fans. Even though it seemed like pretty much Brandon Moreno pretty much wanted Davison Figueiredo to come in the octagon. It seems like most fans were offended that he did, and he ended up coming in the ring and facing him. And but Brandon Moreno talked about how he wanted to set an example for his daughter and didn't want any ill will between them. And then Figueiredo abided and said he respected him and wanted him to have his moment, and said like if they have a fourth fight, they want to do it right. And it was very respectable. But it seems like a lot of people on Facebook didn't even watch the fight, didn't even watch the moment, and just they're very disrespectful to Davis Figueiredo, who has been a great champion and has been very competitive in all the fights against Moreno. And even though it's kind of getting a little bit exhausting seeing these guys fight, and looks like they're going to fight for a fourth time, I definitely want to see them fight for a fourth time so we can finally move on. But so anyways, that's 4-0 on the main card. Now on to the main event, the women's bantamweight championship between Amanda Nunes and Julia Pena. And in this fight, I just chose Amanda Nunes, the long reigning champion that had lost her title to Julia Pena. And basically, it's kind of similar to Brandon Moreno. I just mentioned how sounded like she was talking about how she had a knee injury going into the previous fight and wasn't able to run and spar and work on her cardio, and it really looked like that was the case in this fight, because she looked like she was in better shape, looked like she had better cardio in this fight, and really looked like she, in the first two rounds, it really looked like she dominated the stand-up throughout the whole fight. Through the first two rounds, she dropped Julia Pena several times. I think it was maybe the first round dropped her like 3 times, which is like a record for any women's. I'm trying to think if it's any women's weight class or maybe just bantamweight classes, which is a record. And then after the first 2 rounds, she started like taking her down at will and just like beating her up and dropping these devastating elbows and cutting her open. And then it got a little sketchy there, because Julia Pena has a very dangerous guard, and she started throwing up submissions, trying to catch her in omoplatas and arm bars, and it got sketchy there at times. But the worst moment I think was in the fourth quarter, where Julia Pena got her in what looked to be almost almost got her in an armbar that looked like it was almost cinched in, but Amanda Nunes was able to wrap her legs around Julia Pena's head and was able to slip out. But the scorecard at the end of the fight showed that Amanda Nunes pretty much dominated the round, because one ref gave her a 10-8, and even one ref gave her two 10-8 rounds. So even though they're seeing, like, once again, so I see a lot of social media fights, or a lot of social media posts, and a lot of fans. I don't know if it's just me, but a lot of social people, fans and stuff on social media, Twitter, things like that. I think they get a little bit too in their fanhood a little bit, instead of like actual, like, just look at it unbiasedly and look at it just as a sport, because they actually think that Julia Pena was very competitive, because she got dominated for the majority of the fight. She really, only like real moment that she had in the fight was that submission, because I mean she got dropped multiple times in the first and second round. She got obliterated by multiple elbows. She was cut open, bleeding everywhere. I like, she really never, from what I saw, from what I watched, she never really had a chance. She was on her back through the third, fourth, and fifth round, like the entirety of those rounds. But it's still, regardless, it was a great fight. But and overall, the card itself was a great card. It was a very enjoyable card to watch, especially when I'm going 4-0, or actually 5-0 through my predictions. But and it was a much better card than the fight night, the London fight night last week. But other than that, I think I'll be excited to see how the card builds up for UFC 278. That'll be probably a month from now, and there'll be, probably before that, there'll definitely be more Saints training camp news. And with that, I think that's all I have for you this evening, and I think that's all I got for you folks. And with that, can I get a check, please?